Hello, all of you beautiful people, and welcome to 2019 and Nerds Without Pants annual music special / extravaganza / thing that we do to fill the empty space when we're on hiatus. I am your host, Julian, and we have a lot of fun in store for you this year. We've got some special surprises and guests and fun music and stuff that I don't even know what it is yet because I haven't listened to Patrick's tracks yet, so I don't even know what music he's selected as of recording this. Yeah, it's just going to be a lot of fun. So, yeah, let's just do it. Let's just jump right into it. So, what we're going to do is we're going to do this like we did last year, where we're just going to kind of we're each recording our audio separately, and then I'm going to be cutting them together. So I don't know how this is going to flow until it's done, but I was going to go first. And the first track that I have is from a game. This is the game to 2018 on Nerds Without Pants what Doom in 2016 was to the podcast, in the sense that I think it was the most talked about game on the show in 2018, and that would be The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt of all things, since Patrick and I both decided to finally, jump into that game for real and finish it, and it ended up being pretty important to both of us. So I have one of my favorite tracks. I know for a fact that Patrick picked my favorite track from The Witcher 3, so I'm just glad that that's represented. But this is definitely one of my runner-ups. This is the track called Geralt of Rivia, and this is, of course, there's a bunch of different composers for the Witcher 3 soundtrack, but of course I got the one from the main man with the hardest name to pronounce. This comes to us from Marcin Shibilovich. The thing about this track that I thought was so interesting is that it's the theme of the main character, and you expect the theme of the main character to be really heroic, but I feel there's a real sense of dubiousness and maybe a little bit of menace in this track. It's not clearly a hero's theme, and I think that's because Geralt is not necessarily a hero. He's a sword for hire. You know, he's a witcher. He does stuff for money. Usually that involves slaying monsters, but sometimes that involves escorting people or protecting people or tracking down lost treasure. He's kind of just a sellsword, and I think that this track really hammers that home. Definitely the Witcher that I played, the Geralt that I played rather, was a guy who cared about getting paid, didn't really care about much else, but had a soft spot for kids, oddly enough, which if you listen to the show regularly, you know that that's a really weird thing for me to roleplay as. But yeah, here we go with The Witcher 3's Geralt of Rivia.
Hey, this is Patrick from Nerds Without Pants, and this is our music special that I'm really excited to get into because for me, this year in music was pretty transcendental. Not only was I playing guitar all year in Rocksmith, and I calculated over like 5,200 songs I played in the last few years, but it was one of their best years in DLC. Also, just one of the best years in music for games because some things happened that really transcended the genre in a lot of ways, and I can't wait to get to it. For me, there was so much good music, I couldn't even break it down to 5 songs, and I wanted to say that I actually created like a Spotify playlist called Game Zones, and if you go either to me on Spotify and follow me or go to the playlist, you can contribute to the collaborative effort, and not just music for this year, but like our best, most favorite game music to keep you in the zone in general. I took a lot of music from this year because it's so good, but yeah, at first I just wanted to go back to a game from a few years ago that we've been talking about all year because it's my favorite track in the entire game, and the game is a transformative experience in its own right. But this is the Fields of Ard-Skellig from The Witcher 3, and it's one of those tunes that has an amazing female lead that's belting out vocals from, like the top of a mountain with amazing nature everywhere, such green foliage and everything that makes you just really love the idea of being without any technology back in the Middle Ages, or an alternate universe where, there's dragons and magic and there's this woman singing from the top of a cliff in Scotland or something. So that's what it really feels like. And when you close your eyes and kick back, hopefully she'll make you feel like you're home. So this is The Fields of Ard-Skellig from The Witcher 3 by Christine Slagman.
Dear Chun Li, I hope this letter finds you well. Been a fortnight since my last frolic in Street Fighter V, but I trust the wedding dress I bought you for $5 American still fits you the same. This marks my third letter, and yet you still have not replied. It troubles me so. But perhaps it's because you're a fictional character. Shit. Hello there. I didn't see you come in. This is very embarrassing for me. Let's listen, you ever tell anybody about this? I will probably not do anything about it. Hello. I am Justin Ham, one of the hosts of the Clickbait Update podcast, where we internet the online and click on all the things at the bottom of the page, so you don't have to. But perhaps I'm better known to this podcast as Tyrone Swift of Pixelbit.com, or the guy that came on the one time and talked for 4 hours, or the guy who somehow finds a way to talk about Chun-Li in every stage select he does, because I'm a crazy person. Anyway, I was asked by the Pantsless guys to share some video game music for the show, and you know what? I think I'm just gonna do that. So let's go ahead and talk about some motherfucking music. So my first song is from a little game called The Messenger, which I have a confession to make. I'm really not that big on the indie game The Messenger. Not because it's a bad game. It seems like a perfectly fine game. Styled after the old Ninja Gaiden 8-bit games that were super hard and that I played as a kid that I liked for some reason. But just didn't quite get into it this time around. Maybe I discovered through the course of playing the first level of The Messenger that maybe I kind of hate Ninja Gaiden games. I don't know. It's a whole thing. One of the reasons I decided to pick the game up was because of the track I'm about to play, because it's really, really good. I am kind of hit or miss when it comes to chiptune music, but this song is really cool. It reminds me of just all the old 8-bit classic chiptune songs that would get stuck in your head. And it's good. It gets stuck in your head, but it's not annoying. It's repeating itself. It's doing things. But you're playing, it's just a really great track. I don't really know how to describe it outside of that. It's just really good. Really, really good. I heard it, I believe they played it on a podcast that I listened to at the end of it, because they were talking about The Messenger. And I was like, yeah, no, that's good. I think I should play this game. And I did. I don't regret it. In fact, I may actually go revisit it at some point, because maybe I just wasn't in the mood for it at the time. That's always the thing. But this track is, in fact, the entire soundtrack is done by a man going by the name Rainbow Dragon Eyes. All one word. He has the distinct honor of sounding like a bad guy in the game Sleeping Dogs. I guess that's pretty good. Kudos to him. Anyway, this song is, like I said, it's from the first stage of the game, so you don't have to play too long to hear it. But it's called Hills of Destiny. Autumn Hills in parentheses.
Okay, so if my first track was a hero's theme that wasn't necessarily heroic sounding, my next song is the epitome of heroic sounding. This comes to us from the Spider-Man soundtrack, and it is the core. It's just the track titled Spider-Man, and it is the core theme that you hear when you start web slinging, and it is just heroic as all hell. There's just a little bit of everything in there. It kind of recalls a little bit of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie score. There's a part in there that I swear, like, if you could totally blend it into the Avengers theme from the Avengers movies and not even skip a beat. Like, it just feels like it's going there, but then it just starts to go there, and then it pulls right back and then does its own thing. And it's a dynamic piece of music that will fade in and out as you go from being on the ground to swinging through the streets of New York City. And, you know, in a game that nails what it's like to be Spider-Man, oh boy, does this track really just hammer that home and just make you feel like your friendly neighborhood wall crawler. So here we go with Spider-Man from John Paisano.
All right, so going into like my favorite music this year, I listen to so much because of the Revel FM podcast, and you know we've known these guys for a while, but they have like this amazing over 5 hour long podcast where there's music that they've selected from all different sides of the genres in video games right now. And there's everything from great chip tunes to amazing overarching Spartan themes in Norse mythology to the pared down acoustic guitars that we tend to see in more apocalyptic games that I love, as well as your favorite strings in the background when a lot of the more epic stuff starts to happen in a first-person shooter. But before all of that, what we used to have was shanties that people would sing out and make up, and that's what they did in Pillars of Eternity 2, which was great. And I thought I was going to put one of those in there to start it off, kind of like a yo-ho-ho and a bottle of rum to get us going. But unfortunately, one of the other games I was listening to on that podcast actually turned me on to a game I didn't even know about, and it took it off the 5-man list. So yeah, you'll have to see at the very end what it is, but I'm really excited to end that way because it gets really intense on the way out, and it's going to maybe inspire you to listen to more of the music and hopefully collaborate on the playlist itself if you want to go and get your own copy of all the things that I'm talking about and more, since I can't even mention a lot of the stuff that I added, especially from games that I haven't even played, like State of Decay 2, but this guy Jesper Kidd has a couple of amazing songs that you should check out on there. But just to start it off, I wanted to go with something that I really felt changed the genre single-handedly, and that was Tetris Effect. Tetris Effect was made by the man who made Rez, and it's one of the biggest leaps in VR gaming because it's like a synesthetic experience where the music is changing based on whatever you do in Tetris itself. And when you get different Tetrises, it ramps up the beats per second and the speed, and it'll, change the background as well. So it's really got the three major senses going when you're playing a video game at the highest level. And I think this one song that they have is been remixed for a trailer. I put it on my Twitter account a couple days ago, or a long time ago, I guess, maybe depending on when you're listening to this. But I just I had to watch it over and over again, and it instantly made me have to buy this game. And I never thought I felt that way about Tetris, especially over 30 years since this thing came out. But you really need to listen to I'm Yours Forever. It's the trailer song, but people are remixing it, like this Only Human remix that we're going to play you. It's amazing. The only thing that sucks is there's no actual OST. They're like, this is a game about music, and we're not going to release it unless you pre-ordered it. That's okay, because we got it for you right here, and you probably should just get the game because it's amazing and it's great and it's Tetris, and we're all connected. So I'm Yours Forever. Check this out and come back to me when you've changed.
And I'm gonna keep on loving you, 'cause it's the only thing I wanna do. I don't wanna sleep, I just wanna keep on loving you. Oh, hey, you came back. Sorry about that. You really got to make a little bit of noise. Give me a little warning next time. Anyway, well, hey, since you're here, hopefully you didn't get turned off by my chiptune nonsense last time. But the next track I have pretty good one. So it wouldn't be, an NWP music list if I didn't include some older stuff, I think. So one of the older games I played this year was one I picked up on a Steam sale. I picked up all 3 of the Danganronpa games in a pack. And so far I've only played the first one. I definitely plan on playing more soon. But I'm kind of saving them, for, a rainy day, I guess. They're really good. I just was kind of like, I kind of need a break before I go back to the sequel. But anyway, one track from this game just really jumped out at me, and I loved it. I walked around for weeks just whistling the little piano tune in it. I don't know if it's a piano or an electric piano. I'm really bad at distinguishing those two. It's a song called Box 15. It's kind of a weird name. I'm not actually sure if that has any relevance in the game. Probably does, I just can't remember off the top of my head. But it's basically the song that plays whenever an investigation starts. If you played a Danganronpa game, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, you have no idea what I'm talking about, which is probably for the best. You should give Danganronpa games a try. They're pretty good. They're pretty cool little visual novel style games. I'm gonna tell you what, there's some shit going on here. But anyway, this, like I said, this is when you get into an investigation. Your girl Kyoko is kind of walking you through the evidence as the song starts, which I just have some real fond memories of. Now there's another version of the song called Box 16. I know, what a naming convention they had there, right? But this Box 16 kind of adds like a butt rock guitar. I don't really know how other way to describe it, but I don't really like that version. It plays at the end of the game, I think, like for the final little part, and it's not my thing. But this one, I'm pretty big on. This is just like this nice little jazzy track, and you hear it a lot in the game because, I mean, you're doing some investigating in this game, and it's gonna play a lot, but it never got old. Like, every time it came on, I was like hyped for it, so it has to say something. Like I said, really jazzy, really just kind of fun, which is weird in a game is like Danganronpa. If you played it, you know what I'm talking about. It's weird that game has fun little songs like this in it, but it does. It's really cool. So, without further ado, this song is by Masafumi Takada. This is, like I said, Box 15 from the original Danganronpa.
Alrighty, moving right along with my next selection. This was a very late entry for me. One of the reasons that I love having this hiatus, because for a little behind the scenes, I waited a really long time to record my audio simply because I had the music all picked out for ages, but I have been sick for ages, and I wanted to wait until I actually sounded somewhat decent to record this audio, and that actually took longer than expected, but it ended up being for the best, because in that time, I played Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, and boy howdy, does it have one of the best soundtracks of 2018. And the one that I selected for this special is Misty Woods. It's only a 2-minute track, but I think one of the things that the Monster Boy soundtrack nails is it's music that you do not mind hearing on a loop forever, which is very much why I like the music from like the NES days and the Super Nintendo days, because they knew that they didn't have a lot to work with, so they made sure that music sounded really damn good and didn't get repetitive. And Misty Woods is one thing for half of the track, and then in the middle, right about a minute into the song, it just goes hard. And you'll hear the transition. I don't even want to spoil it for you, but it is the song that made me do the little Roxbury head bob from Saturday Night Live every time that I was in this area and every time that it looped back around. So we're talking basically every 2 minutes, I was just bobbing my head like the Roxbury guys. This one comes to us from Takashi Yanagawa. So here we have Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, The Misty Woods.
Now I want to go to a couple games that I haven't played just because the music was so good. It's a critically acclaimed game that I've seen. There's so many levels in it to play, but also so many good tracks and of chiptunes to play. But this one really stood out to me, and is what I started the playlist with on Game Zone's Spotify. So if you check that out, the first one you're going to hear is this one. It's First Steps from Celeste. It's the original soundtrack, and the artist is Lena Raine.
Yeah, I see you there. Yeah, you didn't sneak up on me this time. I caught you. But, you know what? I think it's time that we rock the fuck out. And what better way to do that than buy another game I bought on a Steam sale over the summer? And that game is Blaze Blue Central Fiction. That's right. I don't know why I bought it, but I did. Well, it was in a 3-pack, and I played Dragon Ball Fighters early in the year, and that was a good game, and I was kind of curious as to what else Arxis has been up to, so I bought these, and holy shit, the soundtracks on these games are fucking incredible. So I had to put one on here. This cannot praise them enough. Now, the song that I picked is for the character Izanami, who, according to my research, is Death Incarnate. So that's pretty metal. And this song is pretty fucking metal. It sounds like a Slayer song. And I'm not exaggerating in the slightest, at least in the beginning. It starts with just in-your-face Slayer-style guitar riffs. So if you're really into that, you're going to like this. If not, you might not like this. But the song does progress into some other things. It progresses into this, like, desperate-sounding chorus in the background. And, man, it's just really cool how they did all this. The entire soundtrack to this game is just amazing. So even if you don't like this song, go check some of the other stuff out. Because, like, it's really cool what they're doing here. This was composed by Daisuke Ishiwatari, I believe. I could not actually confirm that info, but I think he did the entire soundtrack, him and some other people. Not really sure. It was kind of mystifying. It's called Yomotsu Hirasaka, Izanami's theme in parentheses. Enjoy!
another one that I had not heard yet this year, but in my intensive research for finding like the best 5 songs for this episode, I just went down a big rabbit hole, and I came up with this awesome string music that I heard on another boat. So I was going to have like a pirate ship theme almost, because this game, Far Lone Sails, looks like, it's pretty similar sailing type of aesthetic or theme to it. But this song, Sun Down, that's with 2 periods in the middle, it's so good that I needed to include it in here, and couldn't find anything else that could quite edge it out. Even the bigger, more grandiose themes with like orchestras and stuff, to me, they don't have that beauty and the simplicity that can also, at the right points, if there's like a storm, ramp up when you need it. This just really has that undertone to it, that current. And if you listen to this song by Joel SCHOCH, Sundown on Far Lone Sails, I'm pretty sure you'll feel the same way. So here it is.
You're still here, huh? All right. Well, that's really good. That's really good because I saved my favorite 2 tracks of 2018 for the end. All right. So both of these soundtracks got robbed by fucking Red Dead for the best soundtrack of the year. And no, I will not let it go because it was garbage. All right. Robbed. And it pisses me off. So this song is from Celeste. Celeste was a really good game. I haven't beaten it yet because I'm really bad at video games. But this song is from right where I left off in the game. And I almost don't want to beat that part because this song is so fucking good, you guys. It's so good. You can call me a sucker for piano riffs, and that's true. I do love me some piano riffs, but man, this song is just so much more than that. So it comes at a stage where you enter a haunted motel and you're like helping this ghost guy clean the place up. It's kind of weird and hard to explain, but every time you progress a little bit, the song and the level changes, and you'll hear it in the actual track. There'll be like a kind of like a static gust of wind type noise that plays, and then you'll hear the track just start to kind of slowly change. And now as it goes along, it keeps adding more things and changing even more until it's just like full-blown X-Files supernatural craziness. Like, I can't say any more good things, guys. It's so good. It starts doing these sick drum rolls in the end of it, and it's still the same song. It's so good. It's so good. I'm really excited. It makes me excited just to talk about it. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but oh, it's fucking delightful. Lena Raine did this song, and God, she did so good on the entire soundtrack. The entire soundtrack is really, really good, and I am going to finish this game. I swear I'm going to finish it. But you know what? Screw it. You know what? This is called Scattering and Loss. It's from Celeste. Play it. Incorporate it into your life because it's fucking awesome.
And finally, I'm going to get to that song that bumped out a Pillars of Eternity song. And it had to be a lot. It had to really hit me hard, right? Because this is a game that those guys didn't even really know about. It was just one person told them about Hades, and I thought it was something at first, and then it turns into something totally different. I don't want to give it all away, but let's just say it feels like a lot of the other stuff that I put on this playlist, and then it takes it to a whole harder level. So I really hope you enjoyed this edition of the Nerds Without Pants music podcast of the year. You know, we took our favorite music that we were either playing this year in a game or from the other games that came out this year that everybody's been playing, and tried to bring them all together into one synthesis. And I think as we head out, it'd be nice to rock out to Out of Tartarus by Darren Korb, and that's on Hades. So check it out and let me know what you feel like, or add some of your own tunes in the collaborative playlist, and I will see you next time. Thanks, guys.
All right. You made it this far. And now it's time for Justin Ham's number one song from a video game in 2018. That is a song from Octopath Traveler, and it's called The One They Call the Witch. Now, this song is very hidden within the game. It's very hard to find. You have to beat all 8 of the stories in Octopath to get to this, and then you have to go through an extremely long gauntlet of 8 bosses after that, without saving, might I add, and then it will give you this true final boss of the game, which is a really cool final boss. No, don't let me lie to you. It's a really cool final boss, but it's really, really hard, and it takes a really, really long time to do all this. I mean, I put 90 hours in Octopath, and I still wasn't ready for this fight. So, what does that tell you? Ain't nobody got time for this. But anyway, this song, though, is just absolutely incredible. So it's like a 2-part boss fight. The song I picked is from the first part of the fight, and then when you go to the second part, it evolves into kind of a more upbeat rock version of this song, which I'm not as big on. But man, this song is... honestly, it may be my favorite final boss song of all time, and that is saying a lot. Because there are some really good final boss songs out there. But it's just absolutely incredible. It's just this epic opera music. I can't say enough good things. Like, I listened to it right before I recorded this, and it almost brought me to tears. Just certain parts are so well done. The Octopath soundtrack was done by Yasunori Nishiki, which is not really a guy who anybody's ever heard of. I don't think. He's done a few other little things from what I've seen, but if this guy isn't making more soundtracks after this, he's getting robbed. Just like Octopath got robbed of Best Soundtrack at the Game Awards by fucking Red Dead Redemption 2. No, I won't let it go. But yeah, just an incredible song. I'm not going to sit here and bore you anymore. Just this is the song. Here it is. The One They Call the Witch from Octopath Traveler. Get it in your life. The end.
So we are wrapping up this episode with me, sort of. I'll get to that in a second. I have two tracks from a game that I played a little bit in 2018, but really I played a lot of it in 2017. That would be Final Fantasy XIV. But what I did towards the end of 2017 and into 2018 was nearly completed Heavensward, the first major expansion to Final Fantasy XIV after A Realm Reborn came out. And, definitely I'm behind, but man, I never thought that I would say this, but Final Fantasy XIV is my favorite Final Fantasy soundtrack. And it may be my favorite video game soundtrack. And I never thought that I would be able to say that about a Final Fantasy soundtrack that wasn't composed by Nobuo Uematsu. But man, the Final Fantasy XIV soundtrack, in addition to just having tons and tons and tons of original music that's fantastic, actually up until Smash Bros. Ultimate came out, it had the most music in a video game. In addition to that, it has so many wonderful callbacks because they've introduced characters from previous games or dungeons and boss battles from previous games. So you get these amazing renditions of older Final Fantasy music. Seriously, go look up the Heavensward version of Matoya's Cave or the Terra's Theme remix for Final Fantasy XIV. They're just tremendous. So I picked two tracks from Final Fantasy XIV, kind of a medley to finish off this show. The first one, I really couldn't find a track name for it. I just call it the Heavensward trailer. And I liked this because it's kind of a great little medley within a medley, basically. This is a medley of like some of the big Heavensward themes. But then to round out this double medley is A Light in the Storm, which I've featured on an episode in the past, but I wanted to highlight the entire track here. This is the dungeon music for Pharaoh Sirius. It's a dungeon that I just happened to run one night, like really late, and I was just blown away by the music, and I was just thinking about it into the next day, and I had to like look it up on YouTube and just let it run, because it's just so good. So that's going to do it, but it's really not. Stay tuned after the last track, because we've got something really special for you. But yeah, that's it for this episode of Nerds Without Pants. We'll be back very soon with our first live, quote-unquote, episode of the show, with myself and Patrick going over our favorite games that we played in 2018. But I really hope that you enjoyed this music special. Always enjoy putting this one together for you guys. And until then, as always, keep it pantsless, internet. And I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bound fast unto our feet.
psych, the episode isn't over. We actually have a little bonus for you. So yeah, we actually have a bygone voice from Christmas past joining us for the first time.
You make it sound like I'm dead. Holy crap!
In age, I don't even know who are you. What? Who?
I am the not a
yourself.
robot Angelo.
Angelo.
Yes.
That's a name that I haven't heard since.
Before you were. Wait, that doesn't work.
No, that was a Star Wars reference.
I picked it up too.
Oh, okay. All right. No, we have Angelo back for like this impromptu thing that is either being tacked on to the end of our annual music episode, or it's its own thing. We don't know yet. You'll know, listeners, as you're listening to this. Mm-hmm. But right now, I don't know. And I'm actually recording this before I record the audio for my actual bit of the music podcast. So time is weird.
Yeah.
So if I sound weird now, it's because I had a relapse from my cold from a couple episodes ago, and it's possible that I sound 100% fine in the other part that you've already heard. So editing magic is all I can say. But Angelo,
yes,
the hell are we doing here, man?
We are here to talk about music because I like to talk about music.
I didn't know that about you.
It's a secret, really.
Yes.
I don't.
Secret to everybody.
It's a secret to everyone. Zelda has good music. Anyway, it's been kind of a weird year for video game music in that I fell back into Castlevania music pretty hard. So I don't know. Castlevania is dead because Konami, but also long live Castlevania because of a million other things.
The spirit of Castlevania seems alive and well in various places.
Between Netflix and Smash Brothers.
Oh, and I was also thinking like Dead Cells and maybe even a little bit of The Messenger and even like the Dark Souls games.
Sure.
And of course, Bloodstained. Like I haven't talked about it on the show, but Ryan Scott brought it up on our last episode of the year. The Bloodstained 8-bit demake, the Curse of the Moon.
Which is basically Castlevania 3.
Yes. And it's quite good.
Yeah. People love Castlevania 3, man. It's very good. And so is the Netflix series. Are we to the point where we can talk about like maybe the greatest moment in all of video game cinematic history?
Lay it on us, because I haven't watched it yet, but I've also been like really disinterested in it, so maybe it'll light that fire under me.
So the show does a really good job of doing these nods to the lore throughout it. Like it's always got these little Easter eggs all over the place. Second season especially. Like as soon as they go to like the Belmont place, it's like, oh my word, reference overload. But I think like top moment in that entire franchise is when they finally do the raid on Dracula's castle and it plays Bloody Tears because it has not played Castlevania music before from the game, and you're like, oh, maybe they couldn't actually do the music, and then Bloody Tears drops. And it's like, yes, you were waiting for this moment to do this.
I'm glad that I know that now, because if I started watching that show and I didn't hear Castlevania track 1, in the first couple episodes, I would probably not keep going.
Yeah. But man, I'd like discovered all this crazy stuff about Castlevania outside of that. One of the things was, and I went on a Twitter, I don't know what, when I discovered this thing, but I'm geeky enough so that I have like a favorite sound card. And it's from a Japanese PC, Sharp X86000. I think I've mentioned this on the show before, but wow. If you didn't think I was a nerd before, here we are. They made a very late remake of the original Castlevania exclusively for that system. We got a port of it on the PlayStation as part of that collection.
Oh, that was the Castlevania Chronicles one, right?
Exactly, but it was based off of, I believe it was based off of the Sharp 86000 version, but one of the things about the Sharp 86000 is it's a computer, so you can upgrade it, and you can put in like, there's like the default MIDI sound chip that's in there, but then like Roland, I don't know, made another one that uses better samples and things like that. So you can get like 3 different versions of the same soundtrack because it's like Sound Blaster back in the PC days when you like installed something and it was like, are you using a Sound Blaster or using like Disney Sound Source, which I didn't even know what that was, but it was a thing. So people who remember that stuff kind of know what I'm talking about. It has some great stuff, including stuff that doesn't appear anyone else. There is music that plays while you're loading the game. And it would make me, if this music was playing while this game was loading, I would sit through the loading sequence because it is that good. So I'm not even going to try to pronounce the Japanese name for Castlevania. It's like Akumajo Dracula.
Akumajo, yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, the loading music. Best loading music. I never thought that would be a phrase that would come out of my mouth, and it's never been used again. Also has a freaking amazing version of Simon's theme.
Yes, I actually threw that track into our last episode of the year.
Yeah. Cool. I was wondering which ones you put in there because we're recording this before I've heard it. I should have asked that before we recorded. But anyway, that one's in that show somewhere, but you haven't put the loading music in there. And I don't know if you heard that one. Awesome. I love that bass line. And I love like that. So the one thing I like about this is it's like the best parts of the SNES sound chip and the best parts of the Genesis sound chip in one sound chip. Like, that's what I'm hearing, you know?
Right.
You get that really grindy, gritty FM synth from like the Genesis side, but then you get those real clear samples.
And it's also got, you know, one of the things about the Castlevania soundtrack that's so good is it's very Halloween-y.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, it's got that, like, warbly, like, ghosty thing going on.
Mm-hmm. But it's kind of upbeat for the most part. I mean, I don't want to, maybe that's not the right word, but I never feel, like, really creeped out by the music. I always feel like it's real cool music, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of jazzy, like, almost like Streets of Rage 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like it kind of reminds me of the club level from Streets of Rage 2.
Yeah.
Just slightly.
But I would sit and listen to that. I guarantee it. It's real good. Yeah. So I wanted to get that one out there so people heard it for sure. But so, I mean, we already talked about, I mean, there's another one there. I think we can kind of skip it, called Trash Hard in the Cave, where it's really trying to simulate like just sort of a grindy guitar thing, but it's harsh. Like
that's one that I ended up using.
Oh, did you?
I guess I should tell you. So I used that one. I used the Mega Man 2 medley.
Okay, cool. Because I wanted to talk about that one too.
Okay, I used the Near Gestalt, and I used the X68000 theme of Simon Belmont.
Freaking awesome! Great.
So those are the four. Those are the four that I used for the last
Awesome. Because I'm going to talk about two of those, but I almost was like, we don't really need to play them. But
okay,
if you've already mentioned them, I could just reference back to, and you already heard about blah 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 on that one.
Yeah.
Cool. So, where did we stop talking?
Oh, you were just kind of describing the because you started to talk about that thrash in the cave.
Yeah. So it's real, like it's metal. Like, it's just a metal track, and it's, again, now this we're leading full Genesis. Like, this is like Thunder Force 4 style, just harsh Genesis sound chip in all its glory.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're not accustomed to it and you hear it, it almost sounds like noise. And this isn't the Genesis, again, this is the Sharp 86,000. Or 68,000, I said it backwards. But I just love that sound when it's used correctly. When it's not used correctly, it is an abomination to your eardrums.
Yes.
But when it's used like this, And again, I think if you're not used to it, it sounds a little harsh. But if you listen to it a few times and you're used to that sound, it just sounds amazing. So that is a great soundtrack. If you haven't heard it, it is on the YouTubes. You could just search like Castlevania X68000 soundtrack, and there's a lot of another one that I didn't put on here that is on that soundtrack that's cool is they do sort of a waltzy version of Wicked Child, which if you're familiar with that track at all, it's from the original Castlevania.
So you've got me at a disadvantage here because like I know with your because you have your like music playlist going off like all day at work.
I do.
So for me like I know the music but I don't necessarily know the track names. Even like Final Fantasy, like a series where I should know, you would think I would know all the song names. It's like, no, I know like a handful of the bigger ones, but really it's like I'll just listen to the whole soundtrack and I just listen to it and like I'm not even looking at anything. But you've got like that nice little interface where you can probably be like, oh, what is that? And then you look, it's like, oh, okay.
I just kind of memorize it because I've done it so much now that it's just like it's almost. Oh, I just know what that is off the top of my head because I've seen it a million times now. And part of my brain just when you get so familiar with something, you kind of like an jerk assume everybody else is that familiar. And it's like, oh, wait, no, not everybody's as crazy as you are. Stop. So, yeah. I did want to talk about Castlevania and Smash because that's how a lot of people are probably going to be like, oh, man, I remember Castlevania music. This stuff is really good, right? I'm of two minds of the soundtrack that they use. And I heard a lot of people saying, oh, it's so good. Oh, it's so great. I'm so glad they did this.
Yeah, I got to say that you were the first person that I heard say anything negative about the Smash Ultimate soundtrack, and it actually took me by surprise.
So let me frame that a little bit. It is a great soundtrack for Smash. I don't think if you're playing Smash, you're going to hear it and you're going to go, oh, this is disappointing. And that's not even the right thing to say, right? Like, I am not disappointed by it. But you heard the Mega Man 2 medley, right, in the last show?
Yes, we put that in the last show.
I don't think there's anything of that level from Castlevania. Just for the sake of argument, there are a quazillion covers and different versions of the Wily Castle theme from Mega Man 2 out there. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows it. Everybody is, if you're remotely into video game music, you've heard it, you know what it is, I said it, and I'm sure it played in your head immedially, right?
Oh yeah, that's my favorite Mega Man track, period.
It's almost everybody's, right? It's so good. I would argue that the version in Smash of that is in the top. Absolutely in the top of remakes of that. Maybe even my favorite one. I don't know. I've heard stuff that's equal to it. I don't know if I've heard anything that's better, so it's just up there in my mind. Mm-hmm. A lot of the stuff that they did was like of the same quality as some of the VGM stuff. Now, that's not necessarily bad, right? But like if you're talking about Castlevania Judgment has... This is a Castlevania fighting game, by the way.
Okay, thanks for the refresher, because I was like, I know the name, but I know I didn't play it.
So they tried to Soul Calibur Castlevania, and it's not that great, and that's why not a whole lot of people have heard of it. But the soundtrack is out freaking standing. But then, like, you go and you listen to it, and it's like, oh, they just did the same thing that they did with... There's nothing distinctive about it, right? It sounds like every other good remake of Castlevania music, and that's not bad, right? I want that in Smash. But I would love for them to have taken some risks that paid off. I'm going to talk about one that did not, and one that did, right? But I don't think anything is like, and we set ourselves a cut above. There's nothing that sets it a cut above everything else I've heard. And I was really anticipating this because I wanted to hear that, and I don't think I really got that. Let's kind of talk about it. And again, when I say this, I don't want to sound too negative because I think this is great. Like, if I think anybody went out and bought the soundtrack, they're going to be happy with this, right?
Yeah.
But let's compare it to some of the other covers out there. Like, what was that album you shared with me? One of them was in here. Oh, the Perfect Collection or Perfect Selection, Castlevania Perfect Selection. I put a cover of Cross of Fear from Rondo of Blood from that in here, the Nato Sabata project.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I remember.
Yes.
Because that's I didn't actually sit down and listen to that whole thing, but I remember like stumbling upon that and being kind of blown away.
It's amazing. Now,
Yeah.
to be fair, this is rare form stuff, right? Like this is, oh my word, this is top tier cover material of Castlevania. I don't think there's anything of the remixes, which is what you go to Smash for, right? Like they have their selections from the video game music that they play in there. You know, they have the chip tunes and they have the just straight ports from the other video games. But you really want to hear the remixes because that's the original stuff. I don't think they do any remixes that are that tier. So I think there are covers that are out there that are better than what's in Smash. Again, not saying that it's not excellent, just saying that there's stuff out there that's even more excellent. And I'm just kind of disappointed because I wanted to hear more stuff of that level.
Right.
And it's just not there.
I wonder if it's a situation where, since it's Castlevania isn't like a Nintendo owned property, that it didn't get the attention that maybe Nintendo owned properties did. Again, I haven't played much of Smash Ultimate yet, so I don't really know what's there as far as like like the first party stuff music wise.
Mm-hmm. My counter argument to that is the treatment Mega Man got.
Okay, yeah. And like even though Mega Man and Castlevania are not Nintendo owned properties, they're so synonymous with NES, right? That I mean that's really the reason those characters are in there is because like they harken back to a very specific point in time. Yeah.
So some of the selections are really neat, and I'm glad that they pulled them. Like there's some deep cuts in here. For example, Castlevania 2. There's a selection from there where they used I forget the name of it, but they pulled the Famicom Disk System version of Castlevania 2, and I did look into this because I had my suspicions on this, and I was correct. And that's why if you go and you search up the NES version, it's going to sound... Dwelling of Doom is the name of it, I think. No, that's not it. I suck. Now I need to play this to make sure. I think it is Dwelling of Doom. Yes, but that's the Famicom Disk System version. That's why it sounds different from if anybody out there has played Castlevania. It's like, why does this sound a little bit different? That's why. I think that's neat, right? I think it's neat that they grabbed that from that instead of... Now, I don't know if that's necessarily because it's a Japanese company grabbing the Japanese version of the soundtrack. It's probably that simple.
Right.
But a lot of people haven't been exposed to it before, and this is their first exposure. They grabbed 2 tracks from Portrait of Ruin. That's neat.
That surprised me because it's funny because you and I, we were just like chit-chatting one day, and we were talking about like the Castlevania games, and I was saying how much I love Portrait of Ruin, but it seems to be like one of the forgotten Castlevania games.
Yeah, I love Portrait of Ruin. I really do. I think all of those games are so good that it's almost hard to pull one out and say, oh man, this is my favorite one. I mean, a lot of people argue, and I completely understand why, that Dawn of Sorrow is like the best of those.
Yeah.
But that's like saying, oh, this is the best of like all these other best things, Yeah. Literally the best of the best. Order of Ecclesia is fantastic.
It's like they said on Kill Bill, right? Like the only way that you compare a Hattori Hanzo sword is by comparing it to other Hattori Hanzo swords, right? Because nothing else compares.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And they grabbed, I always jokingly called it James Bond Goes to Egypt because it's a very Egyptian sounding song. And that's not a knock against it, but it's just, oh man. So I'm glad that was the one pull, actually, in hindsight. And I have my complaints about that track. I think like the bass is kind of farty sounding in it. And I think the Egyptian stuff, while they put a unique bend on it, is a little predictable. Like it's a very, very Egyptian sound, but it went in a cool direction. The other track was so forgettable that I forgot which one it was. And my complaint with that is Portrait of Ruin has, I would argue, the absolute best clock tower theme with Gears Go Awry. and they didn't use it. They didn't use any Clock Tower music, as far as I know.
And that's an interesting omission because the Clock Tower is always such a
Right.
hallmark of the game.
Right. And I think that one in particular, because of the rhythm it has, I don't know, it fits so well with, first of all, like all the chaos of all the stuff going around. It's like an organized chaos track. Like, it's very solid if you listen to it. And I think it should have been a remix personally, whether they would have given a remix to a track from Portrait of Ruin. But just the opening part with like the pipe organ is so good, and then it could just explode into guitars and nonsense and be amazing.
Yeah, it's very Phantom of the Opera-ish.
It is, and Phantom of the Opera is a rock opera. Like, this is begging for a rock opera cover, and I almost want to like break into an old Catholic church and play that on an organ just to hear it fill the room, right? But that is not something that they included. So that's neither here nor there. That's more of like, hey, this is not the pick I would have made. This is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's more of, I don't want to be nitpicky, right? I'm just saying, oh man, I'm surprised they picked that over this, but I understand. But all the remixes sound kind of the same to me. It's all the same kind of guitar distortion. It's all the same kind of thing. And then the thing is, the remixes also sound a lot like Judgment, Castlevania Judgment soundtrack, which isn't bad. Because like I said, that's one of the best ones. But it almost sounds the same. So then when you listen to the soundtrack as a whole, which nobody's really going to do.
I don't know about that, sir. Like, it seems like a lot of people are like just sitting in the music selection of that game and just like going through and listening to that stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Because it does have a nice like way where you can just like go to a particular game and then just listen to all the tracks from it.
Yeah, I guess I think even though it sounds excellent, it doesn't feel particularly inspired. I think that's maybe the best way to put it.
Yeah.
A little more TLC would have made me kind of happy. I mean, like, if you told me the same person or the same team did all these remixes, I would 100% believe you, because it sounded like they put a band in the room, gave them the Castlevania music, and said, now cover this, and they did it.
Sakurai said never ask him for anything again, Angelo.
I will not. I'm not asking for anything. I'm offering my opinion, not even my criticism. I wouldn't even say that, because I kind of feel guilty criticizing this game on anything, or this soundtrack on anything other than, wow, it's pretty good. I feel like that spoiled kid who got like this amazing thing for Christmas and is like, but I wanted more. You know what I mean? I kind of feel like a jerk.
I have said on the show, like, that I've kind of busted the balls of the Smash community that is still complaining about like not getting Waluigi. But then again, I'm complaining that there's only like 2 Final Fantasy tracks in the whole damn thing. And there's like really no representation of Final Fantasy other than Cloud in that game. And it's like, come on, guys! Like, at least give me Sephiroth, or just go do some deep cuts. Like, everything else has such deep cuts in it, where you're like, holy crap, they even put that in there, and it's like, but where's the Final Fantasy love? And as I understand it, that's more of a Square thing than it is a Nintendo thing. But who knows what actually happened?
Oh yeah, but I think one of the best tracks, like I think the top 2 tracks on here, one of them is the Judgment version, not the remix. The Judgment version of Dracula's Castle, which is originally from Symphony of the Night. It's Alucard's theme in Castlevania Judgment. It's better than most of the remixes, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
It's so good.
Yeah. And another one of those where it's like I didn't actually know the name of that track. I just know the track.
Well, it depends on the game, right? Like, in Symphony of the Night, it's Dracula's Castle, but in Judgment, which is the game it's coming from, it's Alucard's theme.
Ah.
But I love how layered they made it. Mm-hmm. Like, it's already pretty layered in Symphony of the Night, right? Which is Yellow Book audio, I think? I can't remember the difference between Yellow Book and Red Book. It's not a
I didn't even know there was a Yellow Book. I only ever heard of Red Book.
Red Book is just, you can put it in your CD player and play it. It's basically a WAV file. Yellow Book is a compressed format that the PlayStation can interpret, and then like an MP3 kind of, right? And that soundtrack, Symphony of the Night, was done in Yellow Book. So I almost wonder if they knew it was going to sound really compressed and they tried to work around that a little bit. So maybe that's why it's not as busy. But man, you add the bells to the background and all the strings and all this other stuff, and the song holds up with it. Mm-hmm. Because the music itself isn't so busy; it's more slow, and it's a very determined sounding track, right? Like there's a lot of momentum behind it, but it's restrained momentum, so you can fit a lot of instruments in there without it sounding like noise.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's probably my second favorite one from this, and it's not even a remix.
It's just really fantastic.
It's just really fantastic. And then I was like, oh, Divine Bloodlines is on here, which is Richter's theme, I think.
Okay.
And a lot of people said they liked it. I did not. And my reason for saying that isn't necessarily because of the arrangement. It's because I don't think the mix is very good. Boy, this sounds like music critic up my own butt. But that violin is way too shrill. Like, it's ear-piercing. And maybe that's intentional for a fighting game because there's a lot of low-sounding hit noises. Maybe the mix just fits better with a fighting game. But when I listen to it with a pair of headphones, it's like, oh, they need to mix that more gentle. Like, you can still have that really punchy violin where it cuts through everything, which is what you need it to do, without it sounding like it's going to actually penetrate your eardrum. And I feel like this one does. Now, to contrast that, right, the track that you played from Nier, which is always my go-to example, right, on the last show, is from the last dungeon of Nier. It's called Shadow Lord. When you hear that one, it literally sounds like there's a choir in a cathedral with all this stuff behind it, supporting it. It is hard enough to get music to sound like it was recorded in a room correctly. Like, you hear that and you're like, oh, this is in a cathedral. Your brain goes there. Not, oh, this is in a room with echo. Oh, not, this thing has reverb. You can hear the space, which is phenomenal from a perspective of making that sound correct. And then on top of that, all the instrument levels are correct, so that it still never breaks that illusion of you being in a space. One of the things about that sort of sound, where it's a choir, where it's an organ, is it's built on very old technology, right? It's built on these organs that you would pump, either by somebody manipulating, I forget what they called them. Those giant, they're like giant lungs almost for the organ that push the air through.
The bellows.
They're bellows. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. So they're either somebody manipulating those and the organist playing, like manually, right? Mm-hmm. Or the organist is doing it while they're playing, which is, I don't know how you could do that and remain sane. That's one thing. Or sometimes they have it motorized in more modern times, but traditionally that's the way it's done. And you have a choir. There's no amplification. This is pre all of that. Like, we're talking, like medieval technology. So what you do is you make the room an instrument itself. So everything that is in there is designed to bounce the sound around in a way that actually equalizes it. It's phenomenal. Like, if you're a real nerd and you want to read about this stuff, it's all out there. Replicating that sound when you're not in that type of space, or even if you're in that space, just miking it correctly is a nightmare. Yeah, like, even if they put this in an actual cathedral with an actual, like, with all these actual instruments, and choosing what they do and do not add that effect to. The drums are clean, and those spaces are not built for drums. That's one of the reasons why you don't hear drums in those old churches very often, because once they start bouncing around, they destroy that balance. It's a completely different kind of instrument. So just, that's a good mix. This is in my opinion, not a very good mix. And that's what kind of like shattered that song for me. Again, I think it's a good arrangement. Just the execution.
Yeah, I got to say I was kind of digging it, but I'm also, like more of a layman when it comes to listening to music. You're listening to it from a more educated.
That sounds so pretentious when you put it that way.
No. It's as I'm sitting here, it's like, God, I miss hearing Angelo talk about video game music. I'm sure the listeners do too.
Yeah. I appreciate it. I really do. Thanks. Then there's my favorite song on the track. On the my favorite remix, I should say, or just my favorite song on the track overall, which is Cross of Fear. Cross Your Heart. Those are two different things, by the way. Cross of Fear and Cross Your Heart, I thought were maybe different translations of the same song. They are not. They are two very different songs. So Cross Your Heart was a song I had never heard before I heard it in Smash, which might be why I like it so much. I'm not familiar with it. There's not too many covers of it. And the reason for that is it is not from a mainstream Castlevania game. It is from a game called Haunted Castle, which was an arcade game in Japan based on Castlevania 1.
Huh.
It is Simon with a whip going through the castle, but it is much higher quality because it's using arcade hardware.
Right.
And this song is exclusive to that. And again, it's not Castlevania 1, it's based on it, right? Boy, is that good. Like, that immediately made my playlist. I was like, this is great. And even the original is great, too. If you go back and listen to the arcade, of course it is, right? It's Konami at the top of their game. Well, not maybe the tippy top, but when they were really firing on all cylinders. So that is probably my favorite song. From
this I like this a lot.
It's so good.
I'm currently about to look up Haunted Castle because
watch a playthrough.
Like I have never heard of this, and it's like one of those things where it's like, how did I never hear of this? Did we not get this?
We did not.
In Japan.
The Japan exclusive.
Okay, that explains it then.
Yeah. I think there's even a track in here from Castlevania the Arcade, which I have never seen. I don't think it came out over here either, and it's a different arcade game. It's a light gun game, believe it or not, where you pick...
That actually does sound familiar.
Yep. It's very House of the Dead, but I think you pick from either the Castlevania 3 characters, surprise, surprise, or characters inspired by them. Because one has a sword, one has a whip, and one shoots magic. So, that would make sense.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't know much about it, and I tried to get footage of it on YouTube, and all I could find was stuff I couldn't bear to watch for more than a few seconds because it was somebody recording from their cell phone from an arcade cabinet. So I just couldn't deal, because it was too hard to... I just couldn't really see what was going on half the time. Couldn't hear most of it because you're in a crowded arcade with all a bunch of noise going on.
Yeah. Man, this Haunted Castle looks familiar to me, like I've played it before, but I don't see how that could have been.
Yeah, because it's based on original Castlevania stuff.
No, but I'm talking about this actual stuff. Like,
oh.
I don't know. I'm looking at some of this stuff and I'm like, that, like, I feel like I must have seen like some screenshots of this in EGM or something back in the day.
So I think it looks a lot like the X68000 version. A little bit lower quality. Like it's somewhere in between, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not true. Now that I'm looking at it again, I'm like, nah, that's wrong. Drop that idea. It's kind of a shame. I don't know if it's a shame we never got it, right? It's an arcade game. It's probably just built to murder you.
Yeah.
Like the Castlevania really wasn't anyway. Kind of was. So maybe.
It's just funny whenever I go back to like this era of arcade where it's like, it's not a fighting game, you know, and it's not like it's hard to think of remember a time when arcades weren't just like all fighting games or
when platformers were arcade games.
Yeah, exactly.
But the only one I remember, the only one I remember playing in the arcades was I think Ghosts and Goblins. That's it, or Ghouls and Ghosts, or whichever one. I always get those two messed up.
But there was stuff like Joe and Mac and Toki Toki.
Yeah.
Which is the little fire breathing monkey.
Yep.
Just weird games like that, and it's like, I don't know. I loved fighting games in the arcade, but I definitely think that like we missed a lot of innovation, because that technology was so good, but it was only being used towards fighting games. So
I don't think I included it, but if you get a minute, look up Simon's theme in Castlevania the Arcade, the light gun one, because holy crap, that's good too. Simon's theme just is great.
Yeah,
if you put that anywhere, it's always awesome.
Yeah, it's like Guile's theme.
Yeah, it is. It's the Guile's theme of Castlevania. Even like the Genesis version, which is like really low key, because it's just supposed to be this. So the Genesis game doesn't include Simon Belmont. In fact, like if you go to the timeline, it's like way past his existence. Right? It's during World War I, for goodness sake. And in fact, there's a level where you go through. If I remember correctly, there's a level where you go through a Japanese munitions factory. Which that's their clock tower, essentially. There's a version of Simon's theme in that, and it only plays in one small section, and if you don't stop, you will not hear it even loop. Because it's just in a hallway when you're going to approach Dracula, and it's just the melody. It's like real empty. And it just sounds so good. Like they just stripped everything down to the melody, and it sounds amazing. So yeah, that theme, no matter here. But if you haven't heard the one in Castlevania the Arcade specifically, go hear that one. It's amazing. I hate what they did to Lost Painting. I'm just going to put that out here right now. They did a remix of Lost Painting, and they tried to make it more fighty by making it disco, I guess. And I get it. It's kind of silly. It's kind of fun. I didn't like it.
In the context of a fighting game, I think it works, but yeah.
But as far as listening to it outside, it's like, I don't want to hear this.
Yeah.
I don't. Sorry. And again, it just keeps going. Like, if you listen to Dance of Gold, that's a fantastic Castlevania track, but the remix is just predictable, right? As good as it is, it's like, oh, this is exactly what I would have done. You didn't surprise me. I don't know what I want to say about that, except it's good. It's very good, and I would listen to it, but it doesn't surprise me. And that's kind of like how I feel about the whole soundtrack.
Right.
Like, I would listen to it in context of the game. I would play with it on the fighting, but I wouldn't, like, order the vinyl, or I guess that's what the kids are doing now. Yeah. I that's more or less my opinion on it.
Angelo Grant completely hates the Super Smash Bros.
No!
Soundtrack. Thinks that it's just utter garbage.
No, it is not. It's actually really good. It's just predictable. And I don't know. Maybe they were just... I don't want to even say that they phoned it in, right? I want to say that they made a fighting game soundtrack.
Yeah.
But nothing more. Nothing too special. With the exception of that inspired pick of Cross Your Heart. Because, boy, that was good.
And maybe, you know, part of it might have been that it ended up turning into a quantity over quality thing. Because, I mean, you know, Final Fantasy XIV had the record for most number of musical tracks in a soundtrack, and then Smash Brothers came out and completely obliterated that record.
Yeah. I mean, it's loaded, and that I think you're onto something when you say that it's just they had too much. Maybe they had too much on their plate, but to really spend time on, like, all right, let's spend some time on this and come up with some really interesting stuff. They're like, oh yeah, I hear that. Get a guitar, and play.
Like, I bet if you're just listening to the Smash soundtrack, like, on random, like, you just go on a journey.
Yeah.
But if you drill down, like, real deep on any of the separate game soundtracks, as far as, like, let's listen to all the Mario music, or let's listen to all the, Mega Man music or whatever, it's like, okay,
I mean, there's 2 hours of just Castlevania on here.
Yeah.
Just
crazy.
Castlevania. I didn't even look to see how much the other ones were. I heard ridiculous numbers for how many hours this soundtrack is if you clocked it out and listened to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, if you played 100 hours, you might hear every song twice if you tried to. Like that kind of crazy nonsense. So good, though. It is such a good pool to pull inspiration from.
Yeah.
And they did a couple of times, right? But it just wasn't as inspired or as consistently good as the Mega Man stuff. But then again, they were doing less music last time, like you were saying.
I wonder, like, this isn't even, I'm going to look real quick, but I can't fathom that this is like a album that you can buy, right? Because that would just be...
I think you can. It would be like a 5-disc set.
It'd be more than that.
If you got it on vinyl, you'd have to pay extra for shipping because it would weigh so much.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not seeing any official album. Because, I mean, it's almost 1,000 songs. So it's like, even if you're just going by, like, your typical, like, digital music purchases of, like, 99 cents a song, like, that's prohibitively expensive. Unless they just did, like, a selection. And then, but that's not what you want from that, right? Like, you want all of it.
We do. I would if I was going to do that. Now, you know what? That I think is worth it, honestly. I don't know how much it costs, but I think just the sheer amount, and that you could, depending on how they put it, like if I could put all that into one big pool and hit random, I think I'd enjoy myself completely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because you're not hearing the same style over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's right. I played Angelo off with music. The truth of the matter is that we went on for quite a bit longer, and we never really ended this discussion. It just sort of petered out. So I figured that this was as good a place as any to cut it, especially since when combined with the main portion of the music special, that's a pretty beefy music special. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. I just want to take a quick second to thank everybody who was on the podcast. Angelo coming back from the dead, Justin Ham pitching in and helping out since one of our other guests just wasn't able to contribute like we were hoping they would be able to. So thanks a lot, Justin. You'll actually hear from him sooner than you think on Nerds Without Pants. And as always, a special thanks to Patrick for taking time out of the hiatus to do the music stuff. And as always, just a tremendous thank you to everybody who's listening to this. All of you wonderful people who download and listen to Nerds Without Pants and comment and engage and share the show and rate the show and all that good stuff. I appreciate it. I know Patrick appreciates it. We love you all. Wouldn't do this if it wasn't for you. That's, that goes without saying, but it also can't be stated enough. So it's just one of those things. But that's going to do it for this special edition of Nerds Without Pants. Thanks for listening again, and keep it pantsless, Internet.